Welcome back. Let me come back to you to continue, Hamzat, from where we stopped.
Yes, we've seen some measures that have been put in place, and before the official launch of the cleanup, we've seen a lot of dialogue between key stakeholders and the community, which is quite amazing and it's welcoming. But I think we want to see more openness. We want to see how can data inform the cleanup. How can data direct government policies and the actualization and sustainability of this kind of initiative? And most importantly, we need to bring people to the book. We need to hold people accountable because this this has happened years back. But who takes responsibility? Whose action or inaction is meant to take responsibility? We need to see how we can prosecute and put people behind bars beyond just the cleanup, because we need to send a strong message. If we don't send this strong message, things will keep happening the same way. And this, what is really sad is that we're degrading our environment, and then we wouldn't have what our future generation would have to fall back to.
When it comes to following up and monitoring and evaluation on this cleanup that just happened, I think one of the first things we should do is, first of all, give kudos to the government for making this happen. And I will urge every one of us, if it is very possible for us, to go back to the UNEP report on the Ogoni. If we read the report very well, we'll be able to understand some mechanisms and some things that they are looking at in making this happen. And the only thing we need from the government presently now is the trust, and so that they can implement those trusts. And without that, definitely, I think nothing is going to be happening. So one of the things I also want to say again is that I mentioned it before. They need to make sure that they carry everybody along. The people that are responsible for this cleanup, the people that have been working on these places, they need to carry them along. Because if there's no trust in these processes, then there's going to be a lot of we're going to be hearing a lot of people saying, okay, the money that I've embarked for this social project has been packed up, and all will continue. And the state that we have the Ogoni land also, we also make sure that we carry this state along, so that this state will also be part of. There will be the people that will be on ground to check and put things in place for us. And all the stakeholders are people that can make this thing work. But one thing I will say again is that let us give this trust to the government.
All right, now quite a number of the restiveness in the Niger Delta has been attributed to the environmental pollution and degradation. With this program in place, to what extent will you say this will quell such?
Okay, like I said, when this cleanup story was coming up and people were hearing about there's going to be cleanup in Gomela, is one of the things I was just saying is that every stakeholders need to be part of it. And one of the stakeholders is the young people. So when you carry along these young people, they also have the need and the understanding of why this thing is being done. So the case of vandalizing, the case of violence, the case of all these issues will not actually come up when they bring all stakeholders together, so that all of us can understand why we are doing this. Because this understanding will actually help every body or every stakeholders to know what we are going to be doing when it comes to this, taking forward this cleanup in the Ogoni.
I think this on its own is empowerment. It's empowerment where citizens and communities' voice are being heard, where they can now direct policy implementation, and where they can ensure that they're part of the decision-making process. But I think moving forward, we need to see more transparency and accountability. People need to understand what resources have been allocated for this cleanup. What are the timelines? How long would this last? We know that for the ecosystem to be revitalized after the cleanup is going to take another 30 to 40, probably 50 years to have a balanced ecosystem. But most importantly, we need to see a balance around transparency and accountability, where citizens will know what resources are the government is putting into this, what kind of support are we getting from the international community, so that we can start following this money and ensure transparency and accountability, and ensuring that citizens' voices are being heard and they are empowered to add their voices on government policies and implementation as that affects their immediate community.
Well, as you know, this launch is coming at a time when a militant group is blowing up pipelines in the Niger Delta. What do you think can be done to remove the threat they pose, both to the lands as well as to the economy?
During Jonathan's regime, what he did actually was, even though I may think it was unorthodox, but it worked. He gave the contract to secure these pipelines to these militants. Now, this is like having someone, someone is probably going to steal something, then you keep the person and you keep the stuff to be stolen in the custody of the person you suspect that would steal it. Now, you have these people who are probably going to bomb all these pipelines anyway, so you just give them the contract to secure the pipelines, to protect them, and then you save yourself the hassle. Of course, you would have to lose some more money, but that's nothing compared to how much you are going to lose should they embark on destroying and vandalizing the pipelines. So the government, in order not to waste its effort, have to calm down and dialogue with these people. I think it's very, very important that they dialogue with them. You dialogue with them, you know their demands first. You have to know their demands, know what they are looking for, know what they're aiming at. Then you see the ones you can meet that is not going to be detrimental to the government and to its people. And once you come to a compromise, you come to an agreement, then I think that is when the efforts to clean this region is going to take effect. Because if that is not done, I am sorry, we're still coming back to the same problem. Because once you go ahead to clean, they keep bombing the pipelines, and it's going to look like nothing is done. And it is not just about sitting in Nassau Rock and then giving out orders. You have to go down there. You have to talk with these people. You have to meet with them. It doesn't have to be official. It doesn't have to be official, but you have an agreement at something. It's going to save you a lot of stress. It's going to save you a lot of wastage of funds, of time, and of resources.
As much as the Niger Delta Avengers are blowing up pipeline, come to think of it, yes, this is affecting our economy and it's affecting businesses. But again, this is their community. This is their region. This is their environment. It's really disheartening. I'm not sure if they understand this. The devastation alone on the environment is huge, not to talk of their people. So I think we need to talk more about this and see how government can dialogue and sit down together with these people who have issues around it, so that they can dialogue and come to an agreement, so we can move forward as a country and as people.
All right, and now, is there a timeline and an amount of resources to be used in implementing this report?
Well, the report has an implementation phase, and it has a different step-by-step on achieving the entire cleanup, which is quite amazing. But there is no specific in terms of resources that would be used and who would contribute to these resources. I know our government would take our resources as the huge chunk that would go into it, and then get support from international donors and our partners. But there's no specific in terms of how much money would go into this, where it's coming from, and who is going to, and how would this be used. And which also goes back to the basics, that as much as we want to succeed in this, we need to build confidence around this and get community ownership. And by and large, you need to become more open. And being open would ensure that we get a lot of data around this, so that we can visualize this data and empower citizens with this data, so their voices could be heard. And just to quickly respond to the previous speaker, I think now is the time for us to diversify our economy. As much as we depend hugely on oil and gas, this also sends another signal, another message that we need to move our economy in a sustainable way, where we don't have to keep depending on oil and gas, so that we can then have a sustainable system, or a very vibrant system that will grow to become more stable, so that we can create more jobs and see how we can empower citizens.
All right, hold it again. We'll take a quick break and we'll be back in a moment. Stay with us.